Hello YouTube, my name is Jack, welcome back to Wargaming. Today we are finally discussing part 2 of this build video. Before we get started, I have to give a huge shout out to miniaturescenery.com who sponsored the creation of this terrain. If you would like to go and get yourself any Eldar terrain or any terrain at all for that matter, please go check out miniaturescenery.com. That being said, as a perfect segue, you can support us on Patreon for as little as $3 a month down below, and you can join the Discord yourself for free. And without further ado, we're going to pick up exactly where we left off, which is where the painting began. So, for the painting, now, I did skip ahead a little bit based on where we left off, because where I left in the last video is I didn't paint anything. So I of course sprayed everything. I undercoated it with rattle cans or from the local hardware store. Woo, go Bunnings! And so they were all white and now grey. I sprayed all the rocks grey, and I sprayed all of the MDF from miniaturescenery.com, all of the Eldar pieces in white because they match my army, they match my bases of my Eldar army, which is exactly what I'm going for. And right after they were all sprayed, I then went on to the next stage, which was to wash them. I needed to wash them in like a black wash, but I didn't want to buy 60 different pots of Citadel black wash because that would have been just ridiculous. So I instead bought some matte medium and some black ink, and I mixed those two together with water inside a spray bottle, and I shook it up and then basically just sprayed black wash onto the board. I've never made my own wash before, but I would recommend it if you're doing a huge terrain project. It would be perfect for you. If you're doing, obviously miniatures, you don't really want to do this because it's not the perfect black wash ever, but it would be fantastic on huge terrain like this. Right after that, I let them dry for quite a while, and then I moved quickly onto the dry brush. So I dry brushed every single one of these pieces in white because although the board itself, the mat underneath, is like a brown color, and the rocks in the background, which is taken directly from Avatar as well, they're all brownish. I wanted them to be a bit more white so that you can clearly tell where they are on the board, and they would match my pieces, my Eldar army already, that I've already based like, 100 miniatures, 200 miniatures. I wanted them to match, so they are white, mainly just black and white colors. Dry brushing them one color did not take very long. It was pretty easy. Just got some normal craft paint from the local art shop and found a huge brush and just went to town on it. Not trying to, show all of the different streaks, and just got it done really quickly. And last kind of came the foliage and all the plants, all the hanging vines. So what I did for this was I got a Dremel and I basically just drilled in to the various parts of the sculptor mold mixture that I had made, the rocks, if you will. I drilled in and then just basically stuck all of these plants in there that I had cut up beforehand. All of these plants came on like a big wire frame that you can get from a local hardware store for relatively cheap, and you can just cut them all out, just cut them all off all of their stuff. And to get some variation, I bought quite a few. I think I bought like 6 or 7 just so I could have various plants, and I have a enormous box of plants left over that I can just use for like the rest of my life. So you don't obviously need to buy that many. You can just buy 1 or 2, and that would do easily a 6x4 board of terrain. We have more terrain than we can even fit on the board now, so I'm definitely not going to use every single one of these pieces in every battle. But sticking them in was extremely easy. I just used PVA glue and just shoved them into each and every little hole that I made, trying to make them all stand up and look varied so that they didn't look a bit, random. And I did the exact same thing with hanging vines. The hanging vines I found from a local craft shop as well. They're just normal fixtures. You can just cut them apart so that they're a bit shorter, and you can use multiple different ones and different types. And then the last step was just adding some grass. So I basically just went around with some PVA glue and just added a heap of grass. You can get grass like this, static grass in huge tubs. If I'm honest, I would have liked to add multiple different types of grass and also some tufts and maybe some miniature flowers and things to add a lot more variation. Maybe paint some parts of the rocks brown and add some things like waterfalls or something if I had all the time in the world. But I unfortunately just do not have all the time in the world and all the money in the world to finish this board, so I'm happy it's done and it's out of the way, and I can show you guys and start to play some games of 40k on it as well. So now we get to the rules section. This is where I basically designed some rules for the floating pieces of terrain, because obviously there is nothing like this in the rulebook for Warhammer 40k in 9th edition. So I had to design my own rules, and some things may change in the future, but here it is as of now. So if you are shooting anyone from either up or down, if it's from the bottom to the top or top to bottom, then you must subtract 12 inches to your ranged weapon, which means pistols and flamers cannot flame up or down. It makes it a bit harder for things to sit on top of the floating pieces and then just shoot things down. It makes more sense, in my mind at least, to not be able to just sit there all game and shoot people without being attacked. If you are shooting from a floating piece to another floating piece, there's no range taken away, but otherwise all distances are measured purely horizontally, and then you just subtract 12 inches to your range. Speaking of obscuring, there are quite large footprints to these massive floating rock pieces. So how does the obscuring terrain work? So what I have planned is that each of the rocks themselves on the ground, so not the pieces of walkways and all the Eldar terrain that is attached to some of these pieces, they do not count. It is purely the rock themselves that is the obscuring part of the terrain, and they are all going to be obscuring. However, you will only take the obscuring from the base of those pieces, and the floating rock part will be completely ignored. So you might be asking me, Jack, how do you get up and down these pieces? Well, I'm glad you asked. If you have fly, it's not a problem. However, there are some catches. If you have fly, you may go from the bottom to the top or top to bottom, but you must half your movement, including advance as well, because it shows, moving up and moving down and the distance that you travel. Obviously, you measure only horizontally, but you do have to half the distance of your movement. There are also other catches, like you cannot do this in any other phase other than the movement phase with any stratagems or any spells or anything else other than a pure move. No heroic interventions, consolidate, pile in, charge. Nothing can be done to go up or down the piece except for just movement. And the reason why I did this is because I wanted to make sure that you could only go up in one turn and down in another. I don't want to be able to go up and down. That's too powerful. It takes too long, so just going up and that's it is perfectly fine. Otherwise, there will be a huge advantage to things with fly. Things that do not have fly cannot go up there, at least on their own. But this is where some extra pieces of terrain come in handy. So I'm not sure if you've seen or if you've noticed, but there are two pieces of terrain that have portals on them. Yes, this is a new rule I'm adding that is extremely jank, and it is a teleportation rule. So if you end wholly within 3 inches of these portal pieces and you are an infantry or biker unit, you can you can move and then end your movement, and then you can move from the portal piece and elect one of the floating islands with a homing beacon piece to teleport to. You may not move the models until you elect which one you want to move to, and you then pick up all your models and you move them to the top of the floating piece. If they do not all fit more than an inch away from enemy models and all wholly on top of the floating piece without falling off, then they can fit, and any models that do not fit are destroyed. They fall off the edge, they die. Even if they fly, I'm just going to say as a blanket rule, you die. You just fall off the edge and die, or you get stuck in a teleporter, something like that. You just can't fit. But yes, you can. There is a way to get up there. However, there is no way back down. So once you go up there, you are stuck up there for the rest of the game. I would think this would be really overpowered, but now seeing as there's only 5 turns in a game, it doesn't seem that OP to me, especially if, for example, I would put Dark Reapers at the top there, or Space Marine Eliminators. If someone charged me with like a unit of Orc Boys through there, and they had a brawl on there for maybe 1 to 2 or 3 turns, then that would be what they would do for the rest of the game, and those are the 2 choices that the 2 players made. I feel as though that would be perfectly fine. You can also use this to your advantage. For example, when you're doing something like engage on all fronts and you need to have a unit in one particular quarter and you have a unit of infantry near a portal piece, you can teleport them to the other side and they can begin doing an action or just get you engaged on all fronts. There is lots of different strategies you can use. It makes it tricky, it makes it janky, just as an Eldar Craftworld would be. I hope you guys enjoyed this video a bit more than part 1, as these videos have taken a long time to make. The board itself has taken close to like 150 hours of work to finish, and I would like to give a huge thank you to my patrons for helping me out in the creation of this project as well. I believe it is still Connor, Ben and George, and of course the lovely Jimmy. So thank you all for helping with that. If you would like to support me on Patreon and the rest of the team here, you can do so for as little as $3 a month in the description down below. It would help out so much. Thank you to all of you guys who do that. You can also join the Discord down below for free, as I've said. Otherwise, enjoy some extra shots of the board, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace. Oh, I almost forgot. I need to do a shout out for our favorite comment of the video. At the moment I'm making a lot of videos all in one go, so I can't give you the favorite comment of last video, as I'm making all of these videos in one go. So I'm just going to give you the favorite comment of mine during the time of recording this from a previous video, which is from the Yelthari's Guardians vs Morgoth's Crushers Underworlds game. Mr. Bacon Plays said, just got into Warhammer, I love Space Marines so much, and to me it's just an overly complicated card and chess game. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. Thank you for the lovely comment. I'm glad that you just got into the hobby, and I hope you enjoy your Space Marines. I mean, you've chosen the wrong faction, really. You've chosen wrong. You got to choose Eldar, but yeah, I hope you enjoy Space Marines.